Hey Infinity Nikki, what do you think of your own game? Oh. Originally advertised as the coziest open-world game, this latest entry in the Nikki dress-up series has been on a roller coaster for its reputation this past year, and it hasn't even reached its first anniversary yet. Infinity Nikki is developed by Paper Games, or internationally known as Infold. In case you're not familiar with the company, they have been killing it as the prominent leaders for the female-oriented gacha audience. They sweep every other competitor in this niche on every revenue ranking list you look at. However, what started out as a one-of-a-kind experience in the gacha space has been on somewhat of a downward trend. Ever since the controversial 1.5 patch, Infinity Nikki just never really recovered its reputation. So what better time to play it than now? Hi, my name is Psyche, and after playing Dress Up for 30 hours, I will be doing a comprehensive review on everything within Infinity Nikki, from its overall quality, progression and gacha system, and others. After all the things the game has been through, I hope to answer the question, is there still some magic left? Infinity Nikki is the 5th installment in the Nikki series and the first that went open world. Spanning all the way back to 2012, the series started out as a simple dress-up simulator where you will be judged based on how stylish your outfit is. Infold Games has recently been on a big winning streak, striking gold with Love in Deep Space alongside the promising ventures of this game. The CEO of Infold has once said that it's not that women don't play games, it's that there's no good games for them to play. It's quite clear that he found a gap in the market and took the chances. Much like how men know what other men want, the opposite is also true. The majority of Infold's workforce consists of women, with the CEO's own wife supposedly taking a major role in shaping the creative direction of these games. Overall, he is just a very calculated businessman, and I mean that in like an evil genius mastermind kind of way. You'll probably see what I mean once we get to the monetization and maintenance of the game. Their newest project, Infinity Nikki, launched in December of 2024 to an overwhelmingly positive reception. The game was praised for its impressive visuals and casual atmosphere, something that no other open-world gacha just really captured. I did get my sister to try out the game too, and I was actually surprised how good the graphics looked. I verbally said, "Damn, this is a mobile game?" Crazy how far the industry has come. The story follows a mysterious goddess called the Seer having awakened Nikki to a strange space. Teaching Nikki how to wield the powers of ability outfits to traverse the terrain, you set off to a location called the Sea of Stars. However, on your journey, the Seer explains that this version of the world is dying, and even though she led Nikki to safety, that was only a fragment of her memory. And that she has a special task to collect something called the Miracle Outfits, which will stop the destruction for good. A cat-like mascot character called Momo suddenly shows up, who appears to be an old pal of Nikki's. And the Seer urges Nikki to return to the normal world and begin your adventures there. Nikki meets a woman called Ina, who seems to know her but keeps things pretty abstract. It's then that you learn by collecting something called Whim Stars, Nikki can craft outfits that grant different abilities, such as shooting out an orb that purifies dark essence. Ino says that she once gifted Nikki something called the Heart of Infinity and that you'll be the one that will change the fate of the world. You teleport to the land of Wishfield at the small town of Florawish, where you will meet the Stylist Guild's receptionist in order to register as a stylist and begin your search for the miracle outfits. Now, I saw my sister going through this sequence too, and she was just as confused and disillusioned. It looks pretty enough. The only problem is that being told that you're affiliated with a deity needed to fulfill a greater purpose doesn't really connect well with getting players invested into Nikki's adventures. Plus, throwing in a lot of abstract references. I thought maybe you had to play the previous Nikki games to understand the lore. When I was writing the script, I looked up the intro sequence once again online, just to re-watch it and see if I missed some kind of reference. However, the cutscene I pulled up was different. I was confused and maybe thought this was some weird early footage of the game. Turns out, it's not. Now, I've heard of the drama surrounding this game a couple months back, except I never really actually looked into it. One of the most divisive changes was a complete overhaul of the introduction to the game. This intro cutscene is new, and replaced the original one as of the infamous patch 1.5. In the original intro, Nikki stumbles into her mother's attic in search of an outfit for graduation, alongside her longtime pal Momo. She opens a nearby cabinet and spots a ravishingly designed dress that springs to life and takes her and Momo to a different dimension. A strange voice calls out and tells Nikki that she was chosen by the miracle outfit, giving her the ability to wield its powers. After some short tutorials on how to traverse the terrain, it turns out Ina was the one that summoned Nikki here. Revealing that she is a goddess of some kind, she bestows Nikki the Heart of Infinity that grants the potential to save the world, and transports you to the overworld. Nikki and Momo wake up in the unfamiliar environment, open the door leading outside, and get greeted by a bubbly cinematic cutscene of Nikki hopping down the grassy hills, the duo taking in the sights, and finally an aerial shot of the town of Flourish. Cue the title card. This version of the intro throws you into the unknown dreamlike world, Alice in Wonderland style. It was Nikki's own volition to explore the attic to discover how whim stars work and embark on this new journey. It's more relatable, more personal, and serves as a great intro to the atmosphere of the game, accompanied by her longtime pal Momo, who has been present since the first Nikki game in 2013. In the new intro, Momo just gets blinked into existence by the seer, and you have no clue what his relationship to Nikki is. Instead of just teleporting into the middle of Flourish, you're naturally guided there by the wonders of this new world. A great adventure with small beginnings. Instead of being told what to do, you step foot into this strange new land from your own curiosity. In my opinion, the original intro does a way better job of introducing the player to the world and getting you invested into Nikki's journey. As of patch 1.5, you literally just can't see the original intro anymore. Without knowing that it exists, there's a good shot new players will completely miss it. This was the first time I've seen a gacha game completely change their tone and intro to the game, and I don't know why. Well, I have a few vague guesses, but that'll be later in the video. Anyways, I looked around and it really seemed that the 1.0 storyline was a magical experience for those that played it, with the newer story chapters being a bit hit or miss. I took upon myself to complete the entirety of the 1.0 storyline to see it personally. Infinity Nikki is marketed towards an extremely casual player base, so while you're not going to see the darkest or the most emotionally heavy storyline, I still enjoyed it. The plot will take you to a wide variety of locales with many mini-games and activities to do. You learn about the local residences, and I actually felt the urge to explore on my own. A whole new area might just be one hilltop away. Unlike the other open-world games, Infinity Nikki puts a much bigger emphasis on exploration and interactions with the world, while combat is just an afterthought. In case you haven't noticed, there's no health bar in this game, just 5 hearts representing Nikki's health. If you run into a hazard or fall into deep water, then 1 heart is deducted. They recover relatively quickly, so you're realistically not gonna get into trouble unless you're just really bad. So how does the combat work then? You have your basic aspects of traversal. Holding the jump button will cause you to go higher, dashing gives iframes, so you usually won't need it. A lot of other abilities and how you interact with the world will be done through ability outfits, in which Nikki can transform into the outfit when performing the activity, such as gliding, shooting out purification orbs, and floating in mid-air. My favorite one is where you can shrink Nikki and she'll just ride on Momo's head, and you can control Momo instead in order to reach tighter spaces. New abilities are unlocked as you progress in the main story, and there are surprisingly a lot of them. Other activities include harvesting plants, catching insects, grooming animals, fishing, and a few others. The materials are used for crafting outfits and other progression purposes. Combat is as simple as just hitting left click when an enemy is within range. Sometimes you'll have to hit them multiple times or at a specific angle. But if you also want to do a stomp attack, you can just hop over them, which will make Nikki slam down in an AoE. This can also be used to navigate around, such as launching a catapult or breaking down crates. A lot of the emphasis is on platforming instead, while combat is mostly just kinda there in the background. There's still some boss challenges where you have to sidestep to avoid attacks, only that this is an extremely casual game and you'll likely never feel challenged in combat. At certain points during the game's story or exploration, you can show off your drip by entering these styling contests with other NPCs, in which you'll have to wear an outfit that meets the requirement for a certain attribute. In addition to the clothing slots, there are also 3 accessory slots called Eureka that will boost stats even more. As you probably guessed it, this is mainly a game of stats. You can just let the game pick the outfit for you, though usually it just puts on whichever clothing that gives the highest stat and you'll look kinda goofy. Extra awkward when you do the supposedly high-stakes fashion competitions and your outfit just kinda looks like a mishmash of cloth. And you wonder how you won against the opponent who actually brought a well-dressed outfit. You can customize Nikki from pretty much head to toe. There are clothing slots for every possible way you can dress up, from hats to socks to the eyelashes, which I can't even tell the difference of. These have no gameplay implications, so the stats only matter in the fashion contests. Scattered around the world are collectibles called whim stars. When one is nearby, you can use Momo's vision to automatically hone in on it. Obtaining them will usually require you to go through a mini-game of sorts, and my favorite is this one where you have to find anything star-shaped within a small zone. Collecting these will allow you to unlock more nodes in the progression tree, such as unlocking new outfits and passive stat boosts. New outfit sketches can be obtained pretty much everywhere, such as beating the fashion contests, finding them in chests, bought from a shop, or by completing quests. The world itself is actually impressively massive, with multiple regions and dimensions you can travel to. Despite the simplistic nature of jumping and gliding, I actually found that the game innovated in many ways to shake up the formula. Discovering a new zone feels exciting, as you never know what's hidden within it. As of version 1.9, there is now a homemaker side mode that's kinda interwoven with the core gameplay. Basically, you get a small island where you can build and decorate your house. This is technically its own separate mode, though the mechanics do get pretty intricate. There's gardening and homemaking outfits, and the more you progress, the more impressive structures you can build. Pretty much everything in this mode has a timer, whether it may be for planting crops or building furniture. It kind of feels like an overly elaborate version of Farmville. It has its own progression tracks, skill trees, and a wide selection of furniture. Also, this patch launched alongside the Stardew Valley collab. It's not exactly the most meaty collab, since there's just a short cutscene with a Junimo and you get an exclusive outfit. I mean, I tend to enjoy a wide array of games. I personally put around 200 hours in Stardew Valley, and I overall found the exploration and homesteading experience to be pretty laid back and relaxing. I usually play games like this after coming home late and just slapping on a random YouTube video on my second monitor. Of course, if you're specifically looking for a more engaging combat system, more hardcore gameplay, you definitely will not be finding it here. There's a weird fixation in gacha games, or I guess gaming as a whole, is that the game is only fun when there is a difficulty curve. Now, what makes a game fun is subjective, because I ask, why does a game need to be challenging in order to be considered fun? A lot of the games are simply low stakes and relaxing, and that's okay. Now you might be wondering, that's enough glazing. When are you going to talk about the bad stuff? Oh, don't worry. Hidden behind that pretty facade, there's definitely a lot of sinister inner workings behind this game. This is where it starts to go downhill. In Infinity Nikki, you don't progress your account by increasing your power stats like strength, stamina, or whatever. The stats you do increase are the ratings for your outfits. This is done in the Glow Up menu. For some reason, leveling them makes the clothes more stylish, I guess. When you reach the max Glow Up level, you will use a separate currency to unlock a different variant of the clothing. Of course, style doesn't really do anything in exploration. It's mainly the dress-up competitions where they actually matter. The same goes for the Eurekas, though they use their own upgrade currency. You won't need to level anything else that might increase your health total or attack power. I found that you can mostly get away with unleveled clothing in the early game, but the later competitions will require you to at least put some investments into glow-ups. If that's the case, then how on earth do you progress your account? Well, this game certainly has a different flavor that most other gachas don't do. Cosmetics takes priority over everything else. Basically, as you explore the world, you'll naturally collect plants, catch insects and fish, groom animals, and defeat monsters. Whenever you perform an action, you will gain an insight point respective to that skill. Alongside collecting Whim Stars, the amount of activities you performed will be tracked in the progression menu, which you will unlock them with Whim Stars. Most of them are outfit pieces, but some upgrades will passively increase your style points and others. This is actually a pretty cool idea, as they're essentially tying progression to actual world exploration. Had this been the entire case, this would have been a pretty harmless and engaging gameplay loop. Now, given that this is a gacha game that incentivizes long-term play, there's gonna be some live service elements that will hinder how fast you can progress. First, the nodes in the progression track can take a long time to unlock, like catching 3,000 fish. Unless you literally grind the hell out of this, it'll be a while before you get it. Oh, and I was a madman for grinding out a good portion of the main story in a single day, and I found out that the Insight Collection actually has a daily cap. Stamina fills to a maximum count of 350, with 1 unit filled every 5 minutes. This equates to a full refill in just over 29 hours. Using stamina, you can either exchange items in your inventory for common resources, exchange items for the insight token for the respective activity, run the platforming levels for Eureka upgrade materials, or the boss challenges for crafting materials. They're not exactly difficult, and once you beat it once, you can just sweep it for the full rewards. A battle pass exists with a premium track for $10, where you'll get more goodies and a few cosmetic items. The missions themselves are weeklies, so at least you won't have to worry about this as part of your daily routine. Now, Infold Games' retention tactics are pretty aggressive. Love and Deep Space encourages 2 logins in the same day, once in the afternoon and evening. While this doesn't seem so bad yet, there's still the matter of daily missions. Your dailies won't take long to do, but the missions themselves can have a range of activities. It's not the same routine every day. Spending stamina is easy enough too. However, what Update 1.5 brought was a new world space for you to explore. Remember that whole bit about the game changing its whole intro cutscene? Well, that brings us to the Sea of Stars region. Basically, the Sea of Stars kinda uses this concept of multiverses or alternate timelines, as it's mostly a co-op zone where you can play minigames or interact with other players. Your daily routine will consist of holding E to ring this bell, then 3 of these star orbs will spawn on a map, and you have to go pick them up, alongside their fragments. This is how you get the currency to progress in the Sea of Stars progression track, so your income of this will be limited, meaning that you would have to do this every day. The dailies themselves will also ask you to either participate in a minigame, run to a certain area, or do co-op activities. Oh, and the Seer is there too, just chilling on this random rock. This is perfectly fine if it was just an additional feature for players to play with, but why push co-op content so hard that you literally changed the entire intro and the tone of the game for new players? Well, here's what I think. This is a dress-up game with a wide degree for self-expression. What these activities are meant to do is to make you draw comparisons to other players, maybe by admiring just how good they look or realize just how poor your fashion skills are. Once you notice the differences between the 5-star and the 4-star outfits, you'll notice the amount of detail and intricacy in their designs is extremely noticeable. While there's no direct feature that lets you compete or compare yourself to other players in this mode, this is what I believe to be the direction it's headed. It's in a way inducing FOMO in you in a very subtle way. Update 1.9 also introduced the homemaking mode. You get a giant island with a preset house, except you can actually just tear it all down and build your own. Arguably, this mode will also be a core gameplay feature, as you can share and view other players' houses too. This mode has its own progression track and furniture shop, and new furniture will be added every patch, with a discount in the current lineup. Crafting furniture will also require its own currencies, including ones from the overworld, not to mention they will take real-life time to complete being built. Home Insight can be gained whenever you perform activities in this mode. Then you can either place the furniture you built on the island or sell it for more currency. Alongside Insight, you can also unlock new and upgrade existing skills. On a side note, you can also buy said currency by exchanging the gacha tokens, because of course you can. There is a gardening mechanic with more complex crops as you level it up, and the crops themselves being involved in crafting recipes and dye colors. The star-catching outfit also spawns these stars on your island every day, and you have to go pick them up. As you guessed, these are involved in recipes too. You can also nurture fish in ponds and animals for grooming. For some reason, the cost for building certain furniture is just really high, and it's not even like a giant painting or a king-size bed, but literally for a piece of wall. I found a lot of the furniture requires one of the flower crops exclusive to this mode, which takes 30 minutes each to mature. This means you're incentivized to check back on your farm in extremely short intervals if you want to progress faster. Can't say I can stand behind that. Now, I still had a blast exploring the world of Mirrorland, although after you're done with everything, what will inevitably happen in the late game is that you'll be collecting resources to craft clothing or build your house. There's just so many different materials you have to collect, and sometimes the rate that you obtain them is extremely limited. It's quite clear that the homemaking mode's stingy economy may have something to do with retaining older players in order for them to have something meaningful to progress in. The home building mode progression track also has its own paid version, where you will obtain its respective currency 100% faster. But one way it tries to lure you in is that if you obtain enough, you can get the premium currency you spent rebated back to you. Now, Infold has been breaking some new boundaries with their monetization tactics. They're the ones that popularize reward tracks for cosmetic items when you pull a certain amount of times on a gacha banner from Love and Deep Space. Speaking of which, let's go gambling. In Infinity Nikki, you will pull for new outfits. Who would have seen that coming? The outfits are split into many different pieces, such as the hair, earrings, dress, socks, shoes, and so on. Rarity is split into 3, 4, and 5 stars, and given that cosmetics is the name of the game, there's actually quite a lot of 3 and 4-star outfits to collect. Some of them look very plain and vanilla, but still totally wearable. So how in the world are they going to make the 5 stars marketable? Well, I'll just start by comparing the previews for the current rate of 5-star and 4-star outfits. Notice how the 5-star outfit has majestic music and a dynamic pose, while switching to the 4-star preview is just crickets. A full set can grant Nikki a special ability. This obviously has no strong gameplay advantage, but if you don't collect all the pieces, you can't use the ability. Some might allow you to do some special maneuvers or defeat monsters slightly more efficiently, though not to the point where someone can argue that the game becomes drastically easier if you do. Each full clothing set contains many pieces, and the amount depends on the set and rarity. For example, the 4 SSR outfits in the permanent banner have 9 pieces, with the last one having 10. SR sets can have a range, though I've seen most hover around 7 and 8 pieces. However, as of patch 1.5, Infold has opened the window to clothing sets with more than 10 pieces, which does have implications when calculating your poll income and pity. One poll costs 120 diamonds. The base chance for an SSR piece of clothing is 1.5%, with a hard pity at 20 polls. It is guaranteed to be one of the rate-up clothing pieces, and also guaranteed to be one that you don't already have. SR pieces start at 3.29%, with one guaranteed every multi. However, given that most limited SSR sets are 10 or 11 pieces, that's a total of 200 or 220 polls respectively to get everything. Accounting for the worst case scenario, that's 24,000 or 26,400 diamonds in total. However, given that some players report that you're likely to get an SSR at 18 polls due to soft pity, you can go a bit lower if you like. The Ocean's Blessing mechanic allows you to select any item of clothing in the set, and it is guaranteed to be pulled in the next 5 times you get an SSR selected at random. So, if you really like the shoes or the gloves of a particular set, you don't have to risk getting every other item before you get the one you want. Sounds good on paper, but it does come with a couple caveats. Since the game doesn't show the individual rate-up chances for all the clothing pieces, there's some evidence to suggest that the most desirable items, such as the hair and dress, might have a lower drop chance. I basically blew the polls I saved up after 3 weeks on this banner, picked the hairstyle, and well, I got it on the last of the 5 chances. Maybe an isolated case, but having half the set without any of the important pieces sure doesn't feel good. Especially knowing that I have to wait until a rerun before it can be completed. Infold is also the one that started the trend of cumulative pull rewards track. Indeed, you can get additional cosmetic rewards when you pull a certain amount of times on a particular banner. They do this in Love and Deep Space as well. I genuinely hope this doesn't get widespread implementation, because as a player, if there's something desirable in the rewards track, then it becomes a lose-lose situation. If you're too lucky and get the full SSR outfit early, then you won't be able to get the cumulative pull rewards unless you pull more on the banner, even when you've gotten what you wanted out of it. If you're unlucky, then you may have gotten what you wanted, but still had to spend a lot of pulls getting it. But let's assume that you're super lucky and don't care about these eyelashes or makeup options. Then you can just move on with all the diamonds you save, right? Well, the game has one more trump card to reveal. The majority of outfits in the game have something called outfit evolution. When performed, that outfit will gain a different variant of it that has a different color scheme, design, and pattern. How do you undergo evolution? By having a second copy of the outfit. This is easy enough for the craftable ones, as you just have to collect enough resources from the overworld. But as you might imagine, this is basically the dupe system of this game. 4-star outfits can undergo 1 evolution, while 5 stars with 3. The first couple can be obtained in the latter portions of the cumulative rewards track, but the last one will require a second copy. Before you get any smart ideas and think that you can just evolve a single piece of clothing in the set, the evolution requires you to collect the full set. Then every individual item will get the second variant, bringing the ceiling for the diamond requirement to 48,000 for 10-piece sets and 52,800 for 11. Now you can see just how much impact adding that 11th piece is to the poll economy. The egregious part is that the additional item usually isn't even visible during gameplay. Like damn, I really paid extra for some socks that I can't see. Now that's diabolical. Before I move on to monetization, I also want to talk about the color palettes and dyeing. See, in addition to evolution, you can now also dye each individual clothing, with a very wide degree of customization to every corner of said clothing. The color palette options are extremely extensive, and this opens up a lot of possibilities for self-expression. Or at least, it would have been. Unlocking the color palettes requires you to use its own currency, with some of the later ones requiring the full outfit before it can be unlocked. Oh, and don't even think about the custom color swaps before you fully evolve the outfit too. How do you get the currency for dyeing? Well, in extremely limited quantities in events and other progression modes. Or alternatively, you could just open up your wallet. The problem is that players originally thought that the dyeing system was going to be unlocked with just collecting in-game resources. But this change was implemented when the patch went live, and looks like it's here to stay despite some backlash at the time. There are 2 subscription packs, one for $5 for some additional pull income for over 30 days, and another one for $1 that gives more stamina over the course of a week. Both pretty typical, I guess. The cash shop has your typical whale-bait packs, and all of them have fake discounts to make you think you're getting a lot of value. Just think of these as the original prices. Infold really isn't fooling anyone here. In addition, you can also buy exclusive cosmetics with a paid gacha currency exchanged with real money. Can't really critique anything here because this is extremely subjective. There's the age-old argument that cosmetics isn't gameplay, except this is a dress-up game. So how much these items are worth is dependent on the player. The game itself is pretty enough, though I'm also sure that Infold hired psychologists to maximize how their monetization model can siphon money out of you. They're one of the biggest earners in the market right now, and the unfortunate reality is that they are without any true competition. I think it's ridiculous to unlock something as trivial as dyeing the color of clothing as premium purchases, or how the cumulative rewards track basically nullifies your good luck if you also want the items in the track. Infinity Nikki's monetization? Very mid by my standards. The presentation, on the other hand, is mostly excellent. To Infold's credit, the 5-star outfits look extremely detailed, with intricate designs put into every corner. I can't even fathom how someone can cosplay one of these outfits in real life. The streets of Florawish are bustling with activity. The cliff sides of Stonehill are surrounded by a mystic fog, yet every aisle feels quaint and lived in. The serene landscape of the Wishing Woods, and the waves of glowing particles crashing against the beach on the Sea of Stars. All of the locales you explore in the base game feel well thought out, with just enough variation to make exploration feel fresh. On the PC version, there are ray trace reflections and other particle effects that sell its quality. Hard to imagine this is how far mobile gaming has come. You also enter some unique level designs, such as this one where you try to break into the frontmost cabin on a moving train, or this one inside a giant makeup factory, accompanied by bubbly and upbeat music. The entire main story is fully voice-acted in 3 languages, with beautifully animated sequences. There are a few cases in the past couple years where I forget I'm playing a free-to-play gacha game, and at times during the main story content, this was one of them. Turns out, if you forget about the monetization and retention tactics, the experience is pretty good. Now, I did have a few times where the game just froze, however, the current state of the game does feel rather polished. The UI feels intuitive and not as confusing as some other games I've seen. I mean, kinda looks generic, but if it works, it works. If you forget about all the drama and controversies the game has had, then just go in without any thought to the gacha or weekly missions, and you'll still have a blast. However, I think the main reason that despite all this effort put into designing the good aspects of the game, a lot of long-term players don't view the game as what it is now, but instead, what it could have been. The current state of the game is mainly thanks to the management of Infold that happened in the past 5 months or so. Infinity Nikki's update schedule follows a monthly cycle, instead of the usual 6 weeks that's more or less normalized within the gacha market. Pretty bold move if you ask me. They'd have to pump out content faster, though it also means players have less time to save up resources. Let's assume that you explored the entirety of Mirrorland and are now just waiting for new content. What can you expect from late game or how the overall experience is maintained? Well, if you want to put your styling skills to the test, there is the Mirror Crown contests that are repeatable fashion competitions for extra rewards. This is as close to endgame content as you're gonna get. There are many stages for each rotation, and the themes and requirements do change. However, this is a game of stats. Glow up the best outfits you have because this is where it counts. As you probably expected, limited 5-star outfits will naturally give more stats than the cheaper ones. Each Mirror Crown rotation recurs on the 1st and 16th of every month, so you can expect a free round of gacha tokens twice every month. However, this was not always the case. Prior to their infamous patch 1.5, the Chinese version had said that each rotation is every 14 days. This was quietly changed at some point, and we all know the reasoning is obvious. This was done to slow down the rate that all players, particularly free-to-plays, can get the premium rewards at a predictable period. Infold also has questionable practices with FOMO elements. What they've created with Nikki is a system where you have to commit to pulling an entire outfit. Otherwise, it will just sit there in your inventory displayed that it's incomplete, and there isn't much you can do until a rerun eventually brings it back. There are 4 SSR outfits in the permanent pool, and I really wouldn't count on any more joining that list. I have a lot of respect for gacha games that add the limited characters to the standard pool, and Infold Games is not one of them. However, aside from cosmetics, there have been major changes made to the overall game to expand its design. 1.5 still added real co-op to the game with its own modes. 1.8 still added a new world space for you to explore. 1.9 still added an extensive home building system for you to tinker with. Every new event usually gives out a free rewards and has fun activities for you to try out. The main issue here is that all of these features often come with caveats. Some hidden change that players never asked for. The co-op mode removed the original memorable intro, the die system was gutted to be locked behind premium currency, the gacha system became more expensive, and building furniture takes a ridiculous amount of resources. They may have survived the storm, but Infold's chip isn't without cracks. If the revenue figures are anything to go by, the game's total sales is now roughly that of Shining Nikki, the previous entry in the series which has been released for more than 3 years. Definitely not the figures that a high-quality open-world game wants to see. However, it's chugging along nonetheless. I didn't go over all the details related to the drama surrounding this game's development. If you do want to know, I'll leave some videos in the description that I use for reference material. What I can say with certainty after learning about all of this is that Infold is absolutely not a company you should put your unconditional trust in. Usually, when you hear about certain games online, it's due to a drama or controversy that causes widespread outrage. If you were an outsider like me, then your entire perception of the whole game will be based on that particular incident. I went into Infinity Nikki and expected everything to go wrong, just like how the general media covered patch 1.5. Even months later, however, while most of the areas that warranted criticism haven't changed, I did see a portion of the game where many who dogpiled on covering the drama of 1.5 never mentioned. The base game storyline is actually intriguing to follow. The gameplay loop is simple and addicting. The exploration feels smooth and varied. The amount of customization you can do the game is staggering. What I experienced was a different flavor than the vast majority of what gacha gaming has to offer. There's no denying that Infinity Nikki has some good and unique ideas worth praising. My goal with my 30 hours was to see what players like about the game and where the issues started to arise. No one likes it when something that they used to have is taken away. And I got to experience many glimpses of what the game would have looked like. There was no need for dyeing clothing to be locked behind a premium currency. There was no reason to increase the total number of outfit pieces to 11, or how replacing the old intro with one that's much less relatable will benefit new players. But it's been months since the controversial patch hit, and I suppose everyone's moved on by now. Some games are just too big to fail. Despite all the drama occurring in the game's lifespan, we can see that it's still doing relatively well. Maybe not to the extent Infold would like, but people still play this game, as it still manages to maintain a dedicated player base. Unfortunately, if you're the only business in town, then there's no one else to turn to, even if customers hate you. Infinity Nikki represents a unique blend of dress-up and the open-world formula that no other game can quite recreate yet. It's truly a gap in the market with no clear competitor. Infinity Nikki may have been dealt a heavy blow to its public reception and reputation, but it seems it's here to stay. The game is good, the company behind it is not. Thank you for tuning into the review. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the things said in this video. If you wish to catch more gacha discussion videos like this, you know what to do. If you wish to go the extra mile, you can support for what I do for as little as $2 a month on Patreon. Be sure to spend moderately, and always remember, have fun out there.